Orrin and Orson West. There's your photos. Orrin to the left, Orson to the right. Their names when they were born were sincere and classic. They were adopted in the, initially they were foster children, but that is Orrin and Orson West. Their bodies have never been found, have never been found. Even with the attempts of the California City Police Department, the Bakersfield Police Department, the FBI, CHP helped, Kern County Sheriff helped as well. Their bodies have never been found. Now, they were adopted back in April of 2019. That's a photo you see up in the middle. That's actually the adoption ceremony. You can see the family of Trezell West there to the left in the yellow. That's Wanda West. She'll be testifying in this case. It's the mother of Trezell West. You also see Jacqueline Trezell, and they're holding Orrin and Orson. Ultimately, you'll hear testimony in this case that the primary source of income that the Wests had during this time was from money they received from the state due to adoption. They actually had 4 children that were adopted. Each one of those children, they got around $1,000. So the primary source of income when they were living in Cal City was the $4,000 they were receiving for adopting these children from the state of Cal. The names of the other children you see there, Devin, Damien, and also Adrian and Aiden. Those are the biological children of the West. This is some photos from Bakersfield. They did live in Bakersfield back prior to moving to Cal City. I can see them at the park. That's a family photo.
And so they like twin-style names for whatever reason. They had A and A, they have D and D, and then O and O, Orrin and Orson. So A, D, O, or eerie to think this way, but DOA, which is police code for dead on arrival.
All 6 kids. To the right, you can see them in their Halloween costume. These photos are from early 2020 and in 2019. They lived on Lotus Lane. They had an apartment there, apartment number 116. They actually all lived there, all 8 of them. And in the apartment to the other side of that same apartment building, they're in groups of 8 apartments per, was Jacqueline's mother, Maria Martinez, who will be testifying in this case as well.
So both
Sometime
mothers.
in May, they opened escrow on a house in California City. And then in September, that escrow closed and they began to move to California City.
I have a video
about that. That is a photo
that.
of that residence that they lived at, 10717 Aspen Way. You'll see a lot of photos of that home, body-worn camera of the inside of that home. You'll hear about DNA tests of bedding from that home, of diapers from that home, but that is the home of the Wests in California City. Also to the right, you can see that is their Chevy van. You'll see that in a lot of surveillance footage. You will see that in photos from when crime scene analysts went through the vehicle. Now the case itself, just to kind of help you understand the evidence and how it will proceed in this case, it'll start with December 21st and then move back. December 21st is the day that they reported Orrin and Orson were missing. And from there, that's when the police began their investigation, and what they learned during that investigation and talking with the kids led them to move all the way back to September of 2020. But initially, when it was first reported by Trezell and Jacqueline, was December 21st of 2020.
What did you do 1717 Aspen Ave? Oh, I was wondering, did anybody call in, they found some children or something? It was like, go back with my sons, I can't find them. It was the back earlier, and all of a sudden, I can't find them. I'm searching property, I can't find them. You know why?
No, how long have you been gone for?
It's too dark outside. I don't, man, maybe, I don't know. I can't
When was the last time you saw them?
I was outside looking at the lot next door, so I saw them about 20 minutes ago maybe, but basically outside playing around with the car. 3 and 4. the youngest was wearing black sweater, black sweatpants, and then the oldest was wearing black sweater, black shirt, black sweater, long sleeve sweater, and some gray sweatpants.
That's the initial call that was received. It came in at 17:41 hours. That translates to 5:41 p.m.
Okay, so that's the first time that we've gotten to hear the 911 call. And he called in to find out if anybody had reported that they found some children. Never once did he say their names, my babies. Even when he was describing what they were wearing, he said the youngest one and the oldest one. He never called them by name. He already disassociated himself from the children because they had been deceased, gone for at least 3 months. Oh my gosh. Hearing that call gave me goosebumps. Let's try to go back and listen to that one more time. I know it's very, very, very hard to hear. I'm going to try to edit the audio a little bit. I'm going to turn it up a little bit louder, and let's see if we can hear it a little bit better.
911 is the location of your emergency.
11717 Aspen Ave.
Wherever your house.
House.
Okay, let's get it.
Oh, I was wondering, did anybody call in, they found some children or something? It was little black with muscles, I can't find it. It was,
Did anybody call in and say that they found some children or something? Oh, well, I was just wondering if maybe by any chance, is it possible that maybe someone could have, knowing he's a horrible fucking liar. Oh my gosh. You know, this case, I dove deep into this is the first case I ever covered on my channel. I dove so deep into this case. The only other case that I've dove this deep into is Summer Wells. These boys are so deep in my heart, I cannot even explain to you. Hearing his voice on that 911 call just made my blood boil all over again. Because I knew from the very get-go that these boys were deceased. And I had so many people tell me that I was so wrong for saying that these boys are deceased. I had people attack me because I said what Spirit showed me. I got called things that I shouldn't have been called. And I said multiple times, I pray that I am wrong. I'm going to say what I feel, but I'm going to pray for the best. I'm going to pray that I'm wrong. I'm going to pray that these boys are alive somewhere and they're well somewhere and they're going to be found somewhere. But I knew that that wasn't going to happen. But I still wanted to have that little tiny speck of hope.
So we back y'all earlier, and all of a sudden, I can't find them. I'm searching property, I can't find them. You know why?
No, how long has it been gone for?
It's too dark outside. I don't know. I can't
When was the
really
last time you saw them?
I was outside getting wood from the lot next door, so I saw them about 20 minutes ago maybe, but they outside playing
How
around
old
with
are
the
they?
car. 3 and 4.
What color clothing did they wear?
So the youngest was wearing black sweater, black sweatpants, and then the oldest was wearing black sweater, black shirt, black sweater, long sleeve sweater, and some gray sweatpants.
That's the initial call that was received. It came in at 17:41 hours. That translates to 5:41 p.m.
And that was... And we still have 29 minutes of this opening statement. This is the prosecution opening statement, and then we will also have the defense opening statement. I know that this trial is set to last a long time, and I'm scared some of the information that we're going to find out. I'm scared that some of my messages from Spirit are going to be validated through this trial. The visions that I had, the vision of the boys buried under some rock somewhere, will be one that won't be validated during this trial because they still haven't found the boys. But the vision that I had of the boys running around, running away from getting hit. Oh, I need a minute.
Officers were dispatched at 17:46 or 5:46 p.m. They were on scene at 17:48, which is 5:48. The officers that responded were Lieutenant Hightower, Officer Brian Hansen, Officer Anthony Cabriolas, Officer Joshua Flores from the California City Police Department. They all began to search for Orrin and Orson.
Now remember, we saw the security footage leading up to when the police arrived. When Trezell was out in the backyard getting the firewood, and when he walked into the house, and when he was gone for 52 seconds, and then when he came back to the backyard, then he went back inside. The lights started flicking on and off in random places. I have a whole video all about that. I have multiple videos where I talk about the security footage, but I have one video where I break it down. We see Trezell get into the van and take off slowly, but he finally took off out of the driveway, and he was gone for 6 whole minutes. And he hit a bunch of corners. Remember, he said that in his interview. He hit a bunch of corners, and he even talked to a neighbor guy. He asked the neighbor guy if he had seen 2 little black boys, all in 6 minutes before he was back at the house. The entire family, they searched for Orrin and Orson for 6 minutes. The West family, as a whole, searched for 6 minutes. Let that sink in for just a second. The entire time that they stood on that the boys were missing. And Trezell drove around and searched for 6 minutes. And then he pulled back into the driveway, got out of the van, and he stood in that driveway in basically the same spot for 13 minutes. He waited twice as long for the police to arrive as he searched. Those 13 minutes, he could have been walking up and down the road. He could have been looking in neighbors' yards. He could have been yelling their names. He could have been doing anything. But he stood in his damn yard like a statue, waiting for the police to arrive, because he knew the boys were not missing. And I still say, in my opinion, but I have a pretty good idea we're going to find out by the end of this trial that it's a fact.
What are their names?
Orrin and Orson.
Which one's the 3-year-old?
I'm sorry, say it again.
The 3-year-old, which one's his name?
The 3-year-old, he's Orson.
O-R-S-O-N?
Yes, ma'am.
And 4-year-old?
Orrin.
O-R-O-N?
Yes, O-R-R-I-N.
Okay.
R-R-I-N. Okay.
So that's who they were searching for. They received this information from Trezell. They show up on scene. They know they're looking for a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old. Now, just to give a sense of kind of what we're looking at, this is in the area of the home at 10717 Aspen Avenue. The area he's speaking about, playing in the backyard, you can see it here. And there is actually a fence in the upper northeast corner of that yard. And that'll become relevant as we go through this. Let me move this, I apologize. There's a fence in the upper northeast corner. That'll become relevant because that's where Trezell West is saying Orrin and Orson, a 3- and a 4-year-old, exited late that evening from a cement slab on the backyard. So police came, they began to search the home, they began to search the lot next to it, and there was no sign of Orrin and Orson. As I was saying, there is camera footage from a house to the west. This is the footage, and you're going to see a lot of it. You're going to see hours of it. But this is the footage from the house that's at 10649 Aspen Avenue. This is the West residence off to the east of the home. This is when police actually show up. That's Brian Hansen, and you can see Jacqueline and Trezell as they come to approach. So that's the police. They come,
And that's the piece of the security footage that we saw, which it was recorded from a cell phone camera with horrible signal on a live stream from a TV that was, obviously it made the TV look kind of glitchy. The neighbor, which everybody called him Mike's security footage, he put it on his TV, and Steve, AV Watchman, went to Mike's house, and that's because he was the first one to knock on Mike's door and say, "Did you see anything?" And Mike said, "Come here and see what I saw." And that was the beginning. They put it up on the big screen TV. Steve went live. He was recording, showing everybody. We saw December 19th when Trezell and Jackie put all 4 of their children that they have left in the van and drove to Bakersfield. Orrin and Orson did not get in that van. I remember I made one video where I tried to convince myself that I saw Trezell holding one of the boys. I tried so hard. But Orrin and Orson were not there. They were not there on December 19th. They were not there on December 21st. They were never in that house. But this footage right here that he just showed, that's on the screen, people were saying that there was a third person that walked out to the police car. And there was not a third person. And I made a video to try to show that. And I still had people in the comments tell me that there was a third person, but there was not a third person. When the police car pulled up, Trezell was already outside. He walked down the driveway first to the squad car. Jackie comes out of the darkness. I don't know if she was in the house or if she was up on the front porch or if she was up by the front door or what, but she came from that direction and she walked down the driveway a few feet behind Trezell. And they both walked up to the squad car. They said something, and then the squad car pulled off, and Trezell got back in the van.
They hear what they have to say. They begin to look for Orrin and Orson. They look in the neighborhood. They look in the house. They look in the yards next door. And there was no signs of them anywhere. They got assistance from local civilians. They got assistance from local civilians. They got local civilians. They got assistance from the Kern County Sheriff Department Search and Rescue. To the right of that slide, you can actually see the flight path that the CHP helicopter used as it did circles in the sky, further and further away from the home, looking for Orrin and Orson all the way into the desert. And there was no sight of them. There was agencies from all over that were assisting, people all over that were assisting. They had to call CPS. This is from a CPS referral. There's so many things going on. There's even miscommunication that go on. You'll see in this, and this will be evidence in this case, that there's mention that there is video footage of the 2 children walking down the street. There's no footage of them ever walking down the street. You'll hear from officers that combed for surveillance footage. At no point was any footage found that had Orrin and Orson walking down the street. The video I just talked about, the house to the west. Again, we're going to see a lot of it. See that there is no cars that drive up, no people that walk up to that home, nobody that could come and abduct Orrin and Orson, and there is no footage showing them walking away from the home.
I'm very curious to see. I know that we're going to see Mike's security footage. I mean, he just said we're going to see hours of that. But I'm curious if Jesse's security footage is going to be on in this trial also. Now, Jesse is the one who lived directly across the street from the Aspen house. He lived on the corner. He had a Ring camera, and it was a perfect view from the front of their house and that side gate, that side lot. When the SUV pulled up in front of the house and screwed, like drilled, the sign that said, "Where are the boys?" into the awning of the house, it was caught on that camera. And it was a perfect view. So I wonder if we're going to see Jesse's footage too.
California City Police, that when they were out there that night, they went to the neighbor. They tried to look through their surveillance footage. They went in the area looking for other people that had any camera footage. Just want to play this next portion. This is initially kind of the information they were getting from Trezell.
There. You're right there in the corner, you're back facing the back door.
Yeah.
And you're just throwing wood in this area.
I was the graphic.
Okay. So there, you're right there, you're going to go over, and then when did you enter back from the fence?
Yeah, I was going to do it now.
Okay. Now, the last time you came in, did you try to lock it?
No, the last time I was in, I was able to go check and see if I was moved away from the fireplace. I was starting to fire. So it did not work for me to close it. I did close it to like it's close and the dogs was there. So when I came out, it was already open. So I'm assuming that.
Now, what's going to become important in this case is...
Okay, that was super hard for me to hear. Obviously, we have his microphone, his lapel mic. It's hard to hear what's going on in the courtroom because the lapel mic is right by his face. We can hear him breathing, but we can barely hear the TV. So I'm going to try to adjust that audio in this video. So hopefully by the time you're hearing me talk right now, you've already been able to hear what's said.
Cases details, things that are said and things that don't ring true based on the evidence in this case. You heard Trezell said that he left the gate open or closed it to the point where his dogs wouldn't get out. But then when he went out, the gate was open. Well, video pictures from that night, you can see when first responding officers came, the gate was actually closed. They ultimately asked Trezell, who closed the gate? He said, I didn't, Jacqueline did. They asked Jacqueline who closed the gate. She said, I didn't, he did. And again, they're starting to see inconsistencies in what they're saying, what Trezell is saying, what Jacqueline is saying. You'll see that in the evidence in this case. They also look at the gate itself because he said he closed it enough to where his dogs couldn't get out. But when he came out, it was open. So they tested that gate to see how hard it was to open.
We'll start now. Go ahead, recording.
Again, these are 3- and 4-year-old that are supposedly opening the gate. You just saw that it took a grown man some effort to even open. So again, they're noting inconsistencies in what Trezell is saying, in what Jacqueline is saying to them. They were said to be on the cement slab. There was drawing with some chalk. They did see chalk on a cement slab, but Officer Hansen also noted that there was no children's footprints, anything consistent with children's footprints in the dirt. He did see footprints consistent with an adult, but nothing consistent with a child walking through the dirt that was between the cement slab and the gate that led.
That would be why Trezell said during his interview with the news, we don't let them on the dirt. They're not allowed on the dirt. They know they're not allowed on the dirt. I forget his exact wording, but it was something convoluted, and you could tell that he added it in there.
Do not let them go on the dirt in the backyard. And keep them close. They was playing with chalk.
So he must have known that they caught on that there were no kids' footprints in the dirt around that patio. How dare them go out on that patio and draw with chalk to make it look like the boys were back there. If that doesn't scream premeditated, I don't know what does. These sick motherfuckers.
That led out to the field. This is just a kind of overview of the surveillance footage that they either viewed that night or were able to recover in the following days. Jesse Dobbins, he will be testifying in this case. He lives across the street at the time. He had a Nest camera on the front of his house. He didn't have the full service with Nest, but he had a camera. And that camera caught some activations that night. And this will become important as it relates to the timing of it. There was an activation at 5:12, at 5:38, and at 5:51. Now,
that is awesome. Okay, so it wasn't a Ring, it was Nest. I was wrong. And his camera is so clear. Okay, so I'm interested in seeing this footage.
Mr. Dobbins, like I said, lives directly across the street from the West residence. And so his Nest camera looks out across the street, somewhat to the yard to the right, but a lot of the house of the West. You will see based on the surveillance footage that 5:12 is consistent with the time that Trezell was out getting wood from the yard next to it. 5:38 is consistent with a time frame of when Trezell returned from searching for the kids. 5:51 is consistent when law enforcement arrived on scene. There is no activation for any other movement based on what Jesse Dobbins will testify to. The house that is to the west, again, this.
I'm glad that Jesse is testifying because the rumor mill, Jesse said that he had never seen any children at that house. But then the rumors were twisted, and one person said, oh no, Jesse said, and all of a sudden Jesse said that he had seen all 6 kids. Even though originally, from a trusted source, I believe that was AV News Crew, I believe was the first one that spoke with Jesse, so that he didn't see any of the kids. So one person says it on YouTube, and it becomes a rumor, but people say, oh no, it's fact. No. When somebody tells you something or when you hear something on YouTube, do not believe it as factual information unless they show you factual evidence to support that factual information.
And none of the neighbors have seen these boys at the location, if I'm correct.
No, that's not correct, actually. A couple of neighbors, their cameras have witnessed the boys being here, but they never have witnessed the boys leaving. That would be the correct answer.
But they've really never seen the boys themselves, just on camera.
No, they have not.
I learned that very quickly during this case. Unless you see it, don't believe it. And even when you see it, question it. On this security footage, there are 0 children anywhere in that video. 0. Nowhere. Zilch. Nada. Not a single one. There's 2 focuses. 1, there were no children seen anywhere from beginning to end. 2, it proved that Trezell and Jackie lied their asses off during that interview that they did on the 23rd.
The backyard. We saw dogs on the other side of the fence. We did not see children on the other side of the fence. So not saying they weren't in the backyard, just from the security cam footage and the angle the camera was at, we could not see children through an outline or anything on the other side of the fence. Is that same with police?
Yeah, that's a correct statement.
And I've watched so many trials. I've watched so many true crime movies and documentaries, and I love true crime. I love it. I love seeing how our justice system works. I love seeing the mind of a criminal. How do they think so differently than I do? I'm intrigued by that. So I've always been curious about true crime and paranormal. Well, you know, I lived with ghosts since I was 5 years old. So that's just been a natural part of my life. True crime came later. When I found out why we had ghosts in our house, when I found out there was a murder scene in the house that I grew up in, and there was a mystery to that murder. Like, there was a whole case. They had to hunt the killers down, and justice was served at the end of that case. I'll tell that story sometime. I've told it before, but I'll tell it again. I will tell it in great detail if you are interested in it. Because the 2 people that were murdered in that house, they never left that house. Their residual energy was still there. They raised 3 children in that house. So they lived in that house for a very long time. So anyway, my love for true crime, my love for paranormal, that's why. That's where, and that's how, and that's why.
Again, this is 10649. Put a circle around it, but this is that evening. You'll have to do math when we go through it, but it's 57 minutes slow. So this is at approximately 5:09. And you'll see this up in the corner. This is the area with the fence. I'll use that area. You can see an individual pulling items in and out of the yard through the fence. So Trezell West was outside pulling wood
57 minutes
in and
slow
out through the fence. At some time around 16:20 hours or 5:17 p.m. in real time, that's the last time when Trezell went into the house. That's the time frame he said that he last saw the children. When he returned a short time later, they were gone. That's where you're going to hear Mr. West say in this case. After searching for approximately 10 minutes in the home, you will see that he enters his van and begins to drive around the area. At about 6 minutes later, he returns from driving, goes in the house, and that's when the call is made that you heard earlier. There's also footage from a neighbor that lived to the northeast area on Rome Beauty Drive. Mr. Robert Avalar, he will be testifying in this case. That's footage from his home. It looks out towards the desert area, which is near the end of Aspen Avenue. He said that evening, you can see a picture of him to the left. This is Mr. Avalar here. He was outside. He did not see any children walking into the desert. There's also footage that was recovered from 108th Street. It's a white rectangle where showing the coverage of a Ring camera. That's Mr. Trezell West's van driving around the neighborhood. Now again, it's the inconsistencies which lead the officers to investigate, which keeps them talking to Jacqueline and Trezell West. They searched the backyard. This is another look of the backyard facing the home. And based on some statements by Jacqueline, they actually take a cadaver dog out into the backyard. And you can see the dog there, that's Sadie. She does note that there is something there, but what her handler says is it was confused interest. But nonetheless, based on what Jacqueline said to them, a cadaver dog was taken out there and had some notification based on
what did Jackie say?
What that dog smelled. Now the FBI went through that yard, went through the dirt, dug, all those things. No bones were ever found. No body parts were ever found. But the dog did alert or have confused interest at that location.
So that's why they dug those holes.
Now what truly began the investigation, you'll hear this through Officer Hansen and also the other 4 children of Jacqueline and Trezell. When they were spoken to the early morning hours of December 22nd, 2020, it's what they said that led to the investigation. To your left, that's Adrian. That's the oldest biological son of Jacqueline and Trezell. He was 10 at the time. He was asked specifically about December 19th, because that's when they had gone to Wanda West's house, the grandmother's house. They were not home the evening that Jacqueline and Trezell reported Orrin and Orson missing. They were actually in Bakersfield visiting family members. So they were asked, were Orrin and Orson with you when you came to Wanda West's house in Bakersfield December 19th? Adrian said no. He was interviewed multiple times. You'll hear this through Sonia Barton and also Adrian, that his mother had told him that Orson and Orrin were over at his grandmother's, or Maria Martinez. He told them that Orrin and Orson had left before September, that they went to grandmother's house a couple days after we moved to California City. So again, they're getting a sense of not only were they not in the van on December 19th, that they hadn't been in the home in California City also.
Orrin and Orson, or Classic and Sincere, have not been positively identified by any of the neighbors in Cal City. So that takes me back to my original belief that Classic and Sincere never left Bakersfield. I don't believe that they were still living past September 30th. Technically, I don't believe that they were still living past the end of August.
To the right, that is Aiden, another biological son of Jacqueline and Trezell. He was asked who was in the car on the trip to Bakersfield December 19th. He said his brothers. And you'll hear evidence when that was clarified. By brothers, who do you mean? Devin, Damian, and Adrian. Again, this is Aiden stating that Orrin and Orson were not in the vehicle on that trip December 19th. He was asked why Orrin and Orson didn't move to the house. And evidence will show in this case, he said because they cry a lot. And that his mom and dad said they went to the place where they used to live. Again, the investigators are hearing this from not just 1, but 2 children now. That they were not in the home in California City and that they had been taken somewhere else. Moving on to Damian and Devin. Damian, very young at the time, but he was asked, did they move to the house? He said yes, but then they left. They were there only a little day, only 1 day. So again, Orrin and Orson were at California City, but only for 1 day, and then they were gone. So at this point, there's 3 children of Jacqueline and Trezell saying that Orrin and Orson were at California City only for a short period of time or not at all. Moving on to Devin. He was asked, when's the last time he saw Orrin and Orson? He said at the apartment. Again, the apartment's in Bakersfield, not in California City. Asked if Orrin had gone somewhere else, he said, Orrin went somewhere else. He went to mom's grandma. So again, 4 children of Jacqueline and Trezell, all 4 said that they were not with them when they went December 19th, and they hadn't even been with them in California City.
Wow.
This is a Facebook post that you will see related to Jacqueline West. This is the day after, I'll go back, the day after these interviews of the 4 boys. The next day, or that same day, they were informed essentially what Adrian, Aiden, Devin, and Damien had said. And this is a message that she sent to Wanda West, who had contact with the boys. Jacqueline said, please tell them we love them and miss them. And she also said the boys need to ask for a lawyer if they want to talk to them again. I don't want them twisting whatever they are saying.
Wow.
So the officers take that information September 19th. They began to look through the footage. They began to look at that van to see, can we see if any kids are getting in? Can we see if 4 are getting in? Can we see if 6 are getting in? What can we see?
We can see
That's
4.
Footage, kind of a screenshot of the footage from the home. You can see on December 19th at 11:35 plus 57 minutes, that's when people enter that van and drive to Bakersfield. Ultimately, the question will be up for you as jurors. How many children entered that van that day?
4.
Return time, 15:44 or 3.
Now that's the footage that's the exact footage that I broke down, and I tried to convince myself that I saw Trezell holding one of the boys. I mean, even, I remember my thumbnail. Okay, this was 2 years ago when I did this. And I remember my thumbnail was a screenshot of the way that Trezell was standing. And I tried to convince myself that he was holding one of the boys. I tried to convince myself that I saw him put the boys in the van, knowing that it's clear to see only 4 children get into that van on December 19th. I'm not even going to go into what I think about Wacky Wanda West today, because I think that she knows more, or I think she knew more, and maybe she was in heavy denial.
So that's just kind of a list of all the places they went. At none of those places, on any of the surveillance footage, were Orrin and Orson ever seen. You'll hear from Wanda. She'll say she didn't hear the kids in the car. She didn't see them. She didn't necessarily look for them, but she didn't see them in the car. So Wanda West, who got in at the home at 1109 Potomac, all the way to Strata Credit Union, all the way back, at no point being in the car did she hear Orrin, did she hear Orson, or did she see any evidence of them in the car. This is that van. I circled it going to Strata Credit Union, again, Truxton and South H. This is Jacqueline and Trezell at the Gasco. That's at East California and Mount Vernon. Again, no sign of the children. December 19th, this is Superior Grocers. That's on Union and East California. I circled that Chevy van. It's quite recognizable, the van itself. We'll watch the video from that. It's there for about 20 minutes. At no point does Orrin and Orson ever exit that van, or are they seen. Now moving forward to December 28th. At that point, the oldest son of Jacqueline and Trezell is re-interviewed by Sonia Barton. Who is Sonia Barton? She works for CPS. She's not a law enforcement officer. She interviews children. That's what she does. But on that date, she speaks to Adrian. That's a screenshot of him there sitting on the couch, December 28th of 2020. On that date, he told Sonia Barton that while they were still living at the apartment in Bakersfield, he heard noises in the night coming from Orrin. The first person to find Orrin in the morning was his parents. What he saw was Orrin. His color was fading. There was throw up coming out of his nose. And ultimately, he died at the apartment there on in Lotus Lane in Bakersfield. He told Sonia Barton, and also later in his testimony, that Trezell and Jacqueline did not call for any medical care for Orrin. Trezell went to grab something that looked like some form of medical device, maybe a stethoscope. But ultimately, they didn't discuss getting medical care for Orrin. They let him die. What they did is they discussed keeping it a secret. Adrian, both in his interview and ultimately in later testimony, they asked him, that being Jacqueline and Trezell, if they should tell somebody or keep it a secret. And what you'll hear testimony is, through Adrian, is that he knew if they told somebody, they would be taken away from their parents. Now, as for Orson, again, this is based on what you'll hear in evidence in this case on Adrian's prior statement and testimony. Orson was in California City for about 4 days. At some point, Adrian heard a loud thud in the night. The day prior to hearing the thud, Orson was there. The day after the loud thud, Orson was gone, and he hasn't seen him since. He believed that Orson was taken back to his grandma's. Now again, the time frame of that interview with Sonia Barton, that's December 28th. This is a call that was heard between Jacqueline, Trezell, and Adrian about 1 week later.
We're trying really, really hard to get theirs back. We really are. You know, but some things were said, and we just got to prove them that it's not true, you know? And Liz, I just want you to know, you don't have to talk to anybody if you don't want to, okay? I don't want nobody to tell you what to say, nothing like that.
No.
You don't have to talk to nobody. I know they've been asking you a lot of questions, but if you don't want to talk to them, you don't have to, baby. Okay.
And as I said before, those 4 boys will be coming in to testify in this case. But that's their mother, Adrian's mother, about 1 week after he told them, the police, what had happened at the apartment in Bakersfield, trying to get him not to talk. Now, again, based on the information that they received, the officers began to go back and see if they can interview anyone that did see Orrin or Orson. They talked to the realtor, Robert Dees. He had gone out there prior to the West moving. He remembers seeing 5 children. He also specifically remembers 4 boys playing and 1 boy was mad, kind of with his arms crossed. He ultimately identified Orson as being there, but he only saw 5 children at California City. Now, the pest control individual, Joseph Karsham, he recalled 6 to 7 when he went in the home September 15th, but ultimately when they went out to the Chevy van, because he wanted to spray the house, he saw 3 to 4 children walking out and 1 being carried out. Again, the math on that is 5 children. Maria Martinez, she was asked about whether or not she had seen Orrin and Orson from the date of moving to December 21st. When she was first interviewed, she didn't even know the names of Orrin and Orson. She said that she did not watch Orrin or Orson from September forward. And also, she told them about the time that she had visited October 10th and also some video calls. But when she was pressed on it, she ultimately says, I think they were there. I believe they were there. I can't be 100% sure because right there, I didn't see them. I didn't see their faces. They also asked the sister, Perla Martinez. And ultimately what she said through testimony is, and you'll hear her testimony in this case, she did have some video calls, but the camera moved around and she didn't really know who she was looking at or who was who. She does remember seeing Aiden specifically, but that's all she remembers. So again, the police are trying to develop, at any point, has anyone seen Orrin and Orson?
I think that was their goal. That's, one of the bonuses, I guess, to having 6 kids, all boys, all of them, was the confusion. Being able to confuse everybody. Oh no, they were all 6 there. Oh yeah, we had all 6 of them. I mean, you have 4 or you have 5 or you have 6. Are people going to really count how many of them are there? Are they really going to speak to the 2 youngest ones that are 3 and 4? They're not the baby age where you remember them being in a infant carrier or infant car seat, but they were the 2 babies. So they wouldn't have been on the screen so much having a conversation on FaceTime. At 3 and 4, it's, hard to have a full conversation with a 3 or 4-year-old, especially when there's 4 or 5 other children, rambunctious boys around. So I can see how they got away with that way too easily.
I'm going to go through the timeline, a specific timeline of the move to California City. September 11th, that's when they got the keys from the realtor, Robert Dees. September 15th, that's when the pest control individual, first name Joseph, went to the house. September 17th, 2020, they went out to Cal City. And then I highlighted this date because it's going to become important in this case. September 18th, 2020, that's the day that Wanda West went out to Cal City to watch.
But they were supposed to move in June originally. Okay, we're going to go back just a hair and start again.
15th, that's when the pest control individual, first name Joseph, went to the house. September 17th, 2020, they went out to Cal City. And then I highlighted this date because it's going to become important in this case. September 18th, 2020, that's the day that Wanda West went out to Cal City to watch the boys so that Trezell and Jacqueline could move. Well, when she went out to California City to watch the boys, that did not include Orrin and Orson. That was only Adrian, Aiden, Devin, and Damien.
Wow.
So if wacky Wanda West watched the boys on September 18th while Trezell and Jackie were moving the stuff into the Cal City house from the apartment in Bakersfield, and Orrin and Orson were not there, then that means that the incident that one of the boys described about what happened to Orson did not happen in Cal City. That happened in Bakersfield. So again, I go back to what I originally said in January of 2021. Orrin and Orson were never in California City in that house on Aspen, in my opinion.
September 18th, that's when Jacqueline and Trezell drive from California City to Bakersfield to pick up a U-Haul. Wanda West stays with the 4 boys. Again, Adrian, Aiden, Devin, and Damien. She had no sight of Orrin and Orson. She believed that they were at the grandmother's, Maria Martinez, in Bakersfield. And again, Maria Martinez will testify she did not watch Orrin and Orson. September 18th, they return. This is the U-Haul that they return in. The van itself stays in Bakersfield. Jacqueline and Trezell return to California City in this van. You'll hear testimony that it's a 2-seater. There is no space for children. There is no space for Orrin and Orson. There will be cell phone footage.
Okay, wait. Can we pause for just a second and go back to that U-Haul? Just for a second. Okay, now, I have moved probably 7 or 8 times in my adult life. I have helped move probably upwards of 20 some odd times. So I know when you get a U-Haul, you know, it gives you an approximation. Like this size U-Haul is for an average size home of 5 rooms in this size U-Haul. You know, usually that's how they do it. This is a 10-foot U-Haul. This is the smallest box U-Haul that you can rent. Now you can rent a pickup truck, you can rent a pull-behind trailer, but an actual U-Haul that you drive, the box truck, the 10-foot is the smallest one you can get. A 10-foot is for a 1-bedroom apartment. They had 8 people living in an apartment, and that they only needed a 10-foot. They had 6 children, plus the couple, the adult couple. How did they sleep? 6 children. How many beds did they have? Did they just have mattresses on the floor? I mean, how did they do that? The trundles, like, what were their sleeping arrangements? Because this 10-foot U-Haul, this is the smallest U-Haul that you can get, is my point. We have never rented a 10-foot U-Haul. Never. That is just, in my opinion, a waste of money. When I moved to my 1-bedroom apartment, I used my family's minivan and made 3 trips. They had that ginormous van. They had 2 of them, actually. 2 ginormous vans. One that sat in front of wacky Wanda West's house, and the other one that they drove. And they rented this 10-foot U-Haul.
There is no space for children. There is no space for Orrin and Orson. There will be cell phone footage in this case, kind of give a sense of the trips back and forth, because it becomes important, their trips back and forth, because Wanda West helps them unload the vehicle, the U-Haul, helps them watch the kids, takes Trezell to McDonald's, so does these things, and at no point does she see Orrin and Orson over the weekend of the 18th to the 20th. During that weekend, Trezell and Jacqueline are back and forth to Bakersfield in the U-Haul, picking up items. And again, Wanda West believes that Orrin and Orson are at Maria Martinez. There's going to be a lot of video in this case, but listen to the video specific to what Jacqueline says about where Orrin and Orson are when they're moving. She says that Orrin and Orson are with her when they're moving. It's just showing some more back and forth between Bakersfield and California City. Ultimately, again, September 19th and 20th, Wanda and the 4 boys helped Trezell unload the U-Haul. Again, no sight of Orrin or Orson. On September 20th, Trezell and Wanda returned the U-Haul in California City. On September 20th, again, Trezell and Wanda come back to the house. Jacqueline, Trezell, Wanda, the 4 boys are all there. They hang out for a while. At no point is Orrin and Orson present. On that same day, Trezell and Wanda drive back to the apartments on Lotus Lane. Once they get there, Trezell gets in the van, drives out, gets on the freeway, and goes home. Again, at no point during this time are Orrin and Orson seen. You'll see through the evidence in this case that lines up directly with what Adrian said, the timeline, when Orrin and Orson went missing. July 25th, 2020. This is a photo of Orrin West.
Oh
my
gosh.
This is the last known photo ever taken of Orrin.
Okay, wait a minute. This is the last known photo taken of a 4-year-old child. This is Orrin. Little chunkadunk Orrin. Let me show you a few pictures to remind you what Orrin used to look like. And you mean to tell me that this baby right here is that same child? This is that same child? Look at how skinny his arms are. So those photos that we saw of Christmas 2019, those weren't an optical illusion. He was actually that skinny. Let's keep going. I mean, this is Orrin here. We got July 25th, 2020. This is the 4-year-old, okay? For those of you who do not know this case very well, this is the older child, the 4-year-old.
It's recovered from the cell phones that were seized in this case. This is the last known photo of Orson, taken in the apartment at Lotus Lane.
Okay, wait a minute. Is he just getting out of the bathtub? I mean, I don't understand what this picture is. Is this an accidental picture? Is this a capture of him in the background? Why does it look like it's like a sneaky picture? I don't like this picture. I can't tell what this is. Is this a doorknob? See, his hair looks wet. Is this... Oh my gosh. Okay, wait a minute. One of my last visions that I had was of the boys sitting in a white bathtub with white walls. I couldn't tell if it was white tile or if it was a white surround, but I could see them sitting in a white bathtub with cold water in the tub with their clothes on. And Jackie was in the bathroom. Trezell walked in. They shut the light out, and they both walked out and shut the door behind them, leaving both the boys sitting in the cold water as punishment in the dark bathroom. That was one of my visions that I had. Oh my gosh. And it looks like Orrin or Orson is standing in a bathroom. He looks like he's standing there up against the wall in front of the tub. Looks like his hair is wet. Looks like he has a passy in his mouth. This makes me sick. So it says, Jacqueline West interview, December 22nd, 2020. I told him, pretend They're not here. Just act like they don't live here. Just go do your work. Well, I always kept them separated. I focus mainly on the schooling. While they are playing, they don't really play together, but they have played together. I just don't know. What?
July 25th, 2020.
Oh,
now, during one of
gosh.
the interviews, and it'll be played for you here, Jacqueline West talks about how she talked to her kids about Orrin and Orson. She said, I told them, pretend they're not here. Just act like they don't live here. Just go do your work. She talked about what she did with Orrin and Orson. I always keep them separated. I keep them separated. I focus mainly on schooling while they're playing. They don't really play together, but they have played together. I just don't know. But that's essentially what happened to Orrin and Orson. They were in that home, but they were kept separate. And then ultimately, sometime in September, they were killed and have not been seen since then. I've spoke about.
Okay, so my question is, what happened to them then? When was the last time that they were on this earth alive? Were they deceased on the same day, or were they deceased on separate days? Because my vision was that they were in black trash bags with the red pull strings on them, buried under some rocks. They were together. They were buried together. They were, oh my gosh.
Spoke about it. Well, there'll be a lot of surveillance footage we look at. There will be a lot of interviews that we look at. Interviews of Jacqueline, interviews of Trezell. A lot of details that we will be going over. Things that they said, things that changed. And ultimately, the answer to the question of where are the boys will be answered. It's that they're dead.
Oh my gosh.
And at the end of the case, I will ask you to return a verdict of guilty beyond a reasonable doubt as to Trezell and Jacqueline for the murders of Orrin and Orson West. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm still baffled by the end of his opening statement. I mean, and the answer to where are the boys is they're dead. Okay, but where are they? That's not the answer to where are the boys. I'm sorry, I disagree with the prosecution there. The answer to where are the boys is a location. The boys deserve justice, and they deserve to be laid to rest properly, not hidden somewhere out in BFE in California. Their loved ones deserve to be able to go to a place that has their remains, because that's human nature. That's the way of the world. That's the way of the United States. I mean, that's why we have cemeteries all across the world. So at the end of this trial, hopefully we'll at least get the justice. Maybe after the justice, maybe one day we'll find out the real answer to where are the boys? Where are they? Where is that pile of rocks that I saw in my vision that I drew? Where is that pile of rocks? Is it in the area that I showed at Lake Ming? On the map, it looked like a small section of land, but in reality, it was huge. And I didn't realize how huge it was until I was watching them on the live stream. We went full-fledged. I had the spirit box on one phone. I was talking on another phone. I was talking on another phone to LV United. They were out there with AV United, AV News Crew. I mean, there were a lot of people out there, and the spirits were directing them which way to go. Selena would say, which way? Left or right? And the spirit would say, clear as day, which way to go.
They moved the rocks. Start from there.
Get to the area, which I can't even pinpoint the exact area, but when you get there, you'll know, because to your left, you'll see trees. To your right, you'll see a pile of rocks, like an area of rocks. And from what they said, I believe that they moved some of those rocks out of the way. And the police were
But then it got too late, and it got too dark too fast, and they were supposed to go back, and then some drama shit happened, and they never went back. I still fully believe if law enforcement would take cadaver dogs to that area at Lake Ming, between the river and the lake, on the northwest corner of the lake, there's a road on the other side of the river that is creekside, It was said on my spirit box. The name of the road was said on my spirit box. And spirit kept saying Lake Ming, Ming, Ming. I had never heard of Lake Ming. M-I-N-G. I had never heard of that until spirit said it. And Lake Ming is in Bakersfield. I believe that's where the boys are. And I will always believe that until that whole area that I marked on the map has been searched thoroughly with cadaver dogs. I want to do another spirit box session for the boys. I haven't done one since Orson's birthday party. And if you haven't seen that, I'll link that right here in a clickable link above. Orson saw his mommy, his biological mommy, at his birthday party. And he was there at his own birthday party. And you can hear him clearly say it. And watch my West Boys playlist. Orrin and Orson West, also known as Classic and Sincere. Check out that playlist. I have so many videos. Factual things with factual evidence to back it up. And then a whole lot from spirit. This was my very first case. This is the case that decided the direction of my channel. I had just made this channel right before this case. And I made this channel to do my paranormal investigations on. I had no thought of adding true crime to it at all until I saw these babies' faces. They directed the path of my channel. Orrin and Orson. And I call them Orrin and Orson because that's what they were known by. That's what they knew. They were born classic and sincere, but they knew themselves to be Orrin and Orson. Leave your comments below. This case has so much history. And if you want me to do a shorter video, kind of running back through the factual information that we have about Orrin and Orson, let me know. I'll do that. I'll go back through the factual timeline. And I can also add in there a factual time or a timeline of what I got from spirit and as a psychic medium. And when I started this case, I kept saying, I'm not a psychic. I'm not a psychic. I speak to spirit. I'm a paranormal investigator. I'm not a psychic. In all actuality, I am a psychic because I'm a medium. I'm not just a psychic. I'm a psychic medium. Not all psychics are mediums, but all mediums are psychic. I have all the clear senses. All of them. So that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Leave your comments below. I'm so anxious about this trial. What do you guys think about this? What do you think? What's your prediction right now? Guilty or not guilty? Leave it in the comment section. Hit the thumbs up, subscribe, ring the bell, and until next time, I love you bunches.